So I want to show you how powerful Brick Styler is right out of the box. So let's go ahead and get started. We have a simple install here. This is actually the sample I used yesterday when I showed how easy it is to set up. You may notice the extra buttons on both sides. It's because I'm using Advanced Themer, which is one of the first features that I love about Brick Styler. It works perfectly with Advanced Themer, and so if you're using it, great. You don't need it. I'm not dogging on it. I like the software, but I'm saying, to use Brick Styler, you don't need it. But, if you do use it, it works great. So let's go ahead. I have a container here. I'm just going to go ahead and add a block. And inside of that block, let's create a card, for instance. In fact, we'll call it card. Okay? And in this card, we're going to have a title, some text, and an icon. We'll put the icon to the top. Good enough. Now we have this card. Let's go ahead and give it a background. I can just click here, and here's all of our colors from the native bricks picker. And that works fine. If you wanted to use Advanced Themer, you just right click and you'll see it opens up, and this is the Styler color palette, and you choose your color. Works the same, only thing is you just had to right click instead of click it. So there we go. Now we're going to need some padding on our card. So we'll go over to padding, and we can either type in space-m, for instance, and there's space M, and we'll put it all the way around and we have our padding. Or if you're using Advanced Themer, all you gotta do is right click in there, go up to space M and all the way around, and there's your padding. You getting the idea here? We're gonna go over to the border. We're gonna do a radius, and we'll go down to radius M. And this is something that annoys me with bricks. It always closes on all of the frameworks. It closes when you choose one. Anyway, so now we've got our cards. Those are looking kind of small. So what we'll do is we'll right click using Advanced Themer, and we'll go radius XL. We'll have really rounded cards for whatever reason. And there you go. Actually, I am going to change that back to M, and I'll show you why in just a minute. So now that we have that card, I probably should make that a style. In fact, let's go ahead and do that. So I will, this is Advanced Themer I'm using here, but I'm just going to export it, and we'll call it sample style. Doesn't really matter. And we'll just so that we have that card, because I'm going to duplicate it 3 times. Now I've got a card 3 times. What am I going to do? I'm going to make a grid. I'm going to go take my top block here and choose grid. And if I want a grid of 3, I just type in grid 3 and I select it, and there you go, it's done. There's no space between it though, so let's go ahead and add a space M, and boom. Consistency, that is what the deal is. And what's great is with that space M, as you get to smaller, you see how that is adjusting because it is a clamped variable. You're having it big on big screens, smaller on smaller screens. Actually, I'll show you how to do that. If you were using Advanced Themer, you're just going to right click here. You're going to go grid 3, you're going to right click here, you're going to go space M, and that's it, you're done. This is really, really quick and really easy. Now let's say maybe we want our cards to have a border. So all we're going to do is select one of the cards, choose that class, and we will go to the border, and here, instead of writing some rando number like 2 or whatever, we'll go ahead and select all of it. What we're going to do is type in border, and you'll see I have a small, medium, and large to choose from. So I'll go ahead and choose a medium, and helps if I choose that it's solid, and I'll pick my color, Not the prettiest thing of colors, but you're getting the idea here. It quickly and easily does this. So let's go ahead and fix that border. because I only got it on the top and bottom, I could go ahead and put it all the way around so that you can see. Now, that's a medium border. What if you don't want your cards to have a medium border? You think, oh, that's too large. Let's go to border small. Okay, then. So you simply come in here, you go to border small, and go all the way around. And there you go. Now you've got a nice thin border. Another cool thing is that you have your own toolkit. And you'll remember when I imported that site yesterday, in our classes came this My Toolkit. Now, I happen to have one that I keep in my toolkit that I call titling. And it's just a calc that takes our biggest font and multiplies it by 2 because huge fonts are really in. Doesn't mean you necessarily want to have a variable for that. And so I keep it in my toolkit. And that's why it's not built in. And that's the power of Brickstyler. Nothing is decided for you. You know, if I go look at new advanced themer thing and I look at their variables, they've got so many classes. They've got buttons. Okay, so at-button-secondary-outline/color double hover. Did an engineer think this up? Like, come on, who's going to remember that? You won't know it's there, you know? So instead, build what you want. That's the whole idea of Brickstyler, is build it the way that you want to do it. And in a second, I'm going to show you how the colors work exactly the same way. So the point is that I have a variable that I keep in my toolkit that I carry with me to make these big fonts, right? And all I have to do if I want to use a titling font is put in a header, choose my header, and for the font size, I'm just going to go, there's my titling, and all of a sudden I have this massive font. Now, granted, that is far too large on this site due to how big I set the font on this site. But that's all right. I can easily go in to my toolkit. I see here, oh, I'm timesing it by 2. You know, I think I'll times it by, say, 1.5. And there you go. It's a lot more of a reasonable size header. Now, of course, we're going to need a little bit of spacing in between there. So I go here, just going to right click and go to, say, Space XL because it's a header. So including my toolkit is as easy as just making sure that this little box is checked. And then all of my values that are in my little toolkit will come with me. Do you see how quickly this is coming together? It's all the powers of having a framework. And that spacing that I just added, you know, that's going to grow and shrink based on the viewport size. You know, if you're looking at it on a phone, it's going to be smaller. You're looking at it on a big monitor, it's going to be bigger. You know, these clamps are actually really difficult. I learned by building this, they use a slope and it's just ridiculous how complicated it gets to try and get it to size properly. But the point is, it's done for you. Now let's look at the way that your color picker works in Brickstyler and how you build a custom palette, because I kind of skipped over it yesterday and I wanted to get into it a bit more in depth. So I've got 2 colors here, a primary and a secondary. They automatically start with 6 steps, but you can go up to 12, you know, and, you know, as few as 1, whatever you want. But I start with 6 for a reason. And that is because when I was using core, which I think starts with 4, something jumped out at me that I wasn't used to from advanced CSS. And that is that while core would give you a nice dark, it does not give you a dark transparency like automatic CSS does. Now, the problem with automatic CSS is that the picker is a little tough to use. You got to use your keyboard for shortcuts and stuff. Here we're going to just bake these colors in. So what I'm going to do is I have this primary color and I'm looking and I'm thinking, you know, I like this dark color here. So what I can do is up here, I can duplicate this color. I'll go ahead and call this primary, I don't know, let's call it ultra dark, okay? And we'll look at the steps that it's going to generate. Now, we clearly don't need dark versions of this. We probably don't need light versions because that's just going to be the same as these. We wanted the transparencies. So let's take out a couple of steps. Now, this lightest transparency, I probably don't want in the color picker. It doesn't do too much. So all I got to do is unclick these little green boxes. And when I go ahead and save this, it's not going to save those in my color picker. They'll still be made. The variables will still be in your site. It's just not on your color picker so that you can have exactly the color picker that you need. And you can get an idea of what the naming structure here is. And you can call it whatever the hell you want. Maybe you don't want to call this primary ultra dark. Maybe you're going to use this as an overlay. Okay, there you go. Now you have, well, helps if I type right. Now you have overlay dash transparent dash 2. You see how you could build yourself the ultimate little color palette picker? Now you'll notice because I changed the thing, I'm going to have to change back which ones I want. I'll go ahead and drag this up so that it comes up right with the reds. And I can say to myself, you know, I don't really have a need for all of these transparencies. I'll take those off. I only want this one. I don't need that. I don't need that. I do want all of those. And all of a sudden, in a few seconds, you have the perfect color palette picker for the rest of the site. And should you come back and think, oh, damn, I actually needed more steps, I better recreate a few steps, you can always do that and then go back and re-import over. So you can see how you can build the color palette any way that you want it. Not in the way that I'm telling you to, not in the way that some engineer has figured out makes sense to them. I wanted it to be easy for you. The only thing hardwired in here is the T for transparent, the D for dark, and the L for light. The reason that I bake those in, you'll find out in about 3-4 weeks. But point is that it's for a future features that will be coming. But you can see how you have full color control here. So there you go. If you have spacing and you have your titling that's getting larger and smaller, and you have your coloring and your picker, well, then what are you missing from a framework? Well, let me show you what you're missing from a framework. When I go to ACSS, and I'm not bagging on automatic CSS, it's a good program. I don't love how they force this thing whenever I'm trying to see, it's so buggy. You know what I'm talking about there, this pop-up thing that's now. Anyway, what I wanted to say about ACSS is this. If I go over here to variables and I look at my classes, you'll see that there are 3,000 classes that come with automatic CSS. And let me ask you something. Raise your hand the last time you used align-items-baseline-XL. No one uses that. They literally tell you, don't use utility classes. But then they clog up your system with 3,000 of them. Now, again, automatic's not the only one. Core has it too, a few less, but it has them, and the reason is because they need something to sell you. They need something to explain why every year you need to pay an update fee for a framework that is really nothing more than a very complicated clamp system to allow for fluid styling or fluid spacing and sizing. And that's the truth as far as I see it. I mean, I could be wrong. I own all of them. I used all of them. They aggravated me to the point that I built Brick Styler because I was like, geez, I only need a little bit of your of what you've got here. Why am I carrying this like 10 meg download around on my website, let alone leaving it for a customer who then is going to go hire some other smuck to update their website, and they're going to be using my advanced or automatic CSS license? I don't think so. And that's why with BrickStyler, it's all just native. It's nothing but variables that are on their system. Still updatable. I mean, we're not trying to screw the client here. We just want to be able to know that our license isn't going to get out there. So hopefully that gives you an idea of why BrickStyler is so kick-ass. You know, right now it's on sale for $39, you know, for this week. And that's an LTD. Obviously, I'm not trying to get rich on this. I'm trying to give everybody a good basis. Clearly it helps me to sell BricsBits library. But at the same token, I didn't want to bind it in with Bricks Library where it's like, oh, you have to use my library. No, it on its own, it's a great product, and it plays well with others. Again, I'm not bagging on anybody else's products. I've bought them all with my own money. I never felt ripped off by Automatic CSS. I never felt ripped off by Advanced Themer. I never felt ripped off by Core. This is just a different solution that is a lighter weight, more inexpensive, and in my opinion, does the job better than these overblown frameworks. So I hope that this kind of explains some things, shows you how it works, and has you as excited as I am. So I'll see you in the next video. Oh, and there will be some training. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of training that utilizes BrickStyler because honestly, it worked. It's the same theory if you're using Advanced Themers framework or Automatic CSS or BrickStyler. They're all just using variables. The only thing is with BrickStyler, you're not bringing 3,000 utility classes that you're never going to use, or some complicated system that you're going to have to watch an hour-long video to figure out the coloring system of. Okay, have a great day. Bye now.